Read aloud this text in N.U.S. accent. This is today's cyber news for September 30th, 2025. You can find previous editions and more at dailycyber.news.
Asahi Group in Japan had to pause ordering systems and shipments after a cyber attack, and that's a big deal for a company that anchors supermarket shelves and bar taps nationwide. What Asahi called a system failure looks broader than one plant because call centers went down too, which hints at shared enterprise systems. Think planning, logistics, and order management being disrupted together. In beverage manufacturing, even a short interruption skews freshness windows and delivery slots, so distributors scramble, retailers see gaps, and customers notice. Expect staggered restarts, allocation tweaks, and a cleanup of the order backlog before things feel normal again. Recommendation: line up substitute products with distributors and be alert for spoofed supplier emails riding the news. Harrods disclosed a third-party breach that exposed around 430,000 e-commerce records. And while payment data wasn't flagged, the mix of contact details and order info is perfect for convincing fraud. Luxury retail carries higher-risk customers, so attackers lean into lures that reference real purchases, returns, and loyalty balances. We typically see look-alike domains and polished support messages that push victims to verify credentials or update shipping. As the investigation moves, authorities have been notified and customers are hearing directly from the brand. The most immediate exposure is targeted phishing rather than direct monetary theft. Recommendation: reset the account password, turn on multi-factor authentication, and treat unsolicited support outreach as hostile until confirmed in-app. Akira ransomware actors are exploiting a SonicWall SSL VPN issue tracked as CVE 2024-4066 to bypass multi-factor authentication and move fast once inside. The pattern matches the current edge device reality. Hit the gateway, sidestep strong login, pivot with RDP and domain tools, and then encrypt selectively after grabbing sensitive shares. Reporting points to compressed dwell times, sometimes hours, not days, with credential reuse and quick lateral movement. If you're running affected builds, the window between probing the encryption can be brutally short, so detection has to be tuned for early signs like anomalous logins and surprise local admin creations. Recommendation: patch immediately, rotate anything tied to the VPN, and hunt for rapid multi-host encryption behaviors. A rogue NPM package named Postmark-MCP embedded a malicious Model Context Protocol server that quietly BCC'd outgoing emails to an attacker, blending AI agent plumbing with classic exfiltration. That's dangerous because developer and automation environments often handle password resets, alert digests, and internal notifications, high-value messages that move secrets and session recovery links. Telemetry indicates the package saw real downloads before takedown, and the minimal code footprint means quick diffs might miss the backdoor on first pass. It widens the software supply chain lens to include agent protocols and their tiny services, not just libraries. Recommendation: pin versions, verify maintainers, and scan mailer logs for odd BCC lines during the exposure window. Microsoft is warning about phishing that hides inside SVG image files crafted with help from large language models, and the goal is to sneak past scanners. The images look harmless in previews, but embedded JavaScript pieces assemble only when someone clicks, redirecting to credential harvesters or malware downloads. Campaigns chain cloud file hosts, short-lived domains, and HTML smuggling, which keeps indicators fleeting and detection brittle. Once attackers capture a session token or password, they validate access and fan out through federated apps. It's a reminder that images can be code and gateways aren't great at spotting it. Recommendation: filter or strip active SVG content at the mail boundary and on endpoints where you can. A separate lure campaign impersonated Ukraine's national police using clickable SVGs that kicked off multi-stage infections, eventually dropping a Matera Stealer alongside a crypto mining payload called PureMiner. The operators used believable sender theming, local language messaging, and fast-rotating infrastructure, catching recipients who bypassed prompts or previews. Telemetry shows attempts to move laterally into shared drives and to harvest browser-synced credentials, with miners throttled to avoid fan noise or visible slowdowns. Stolen data and tokens were packaged for resale within hours, which accelerates follow-on attacks. It's the same social playbook, just with better staging and more patient miners. Recommendation: detonate SVG-bearing mail in sandboxes and disable one-click SVG launches where possible. One ransomware crew tried to recruit a BBC journalist to act as an insider, which is a bold twist on initial access. The approach came over encrypted chat and even included guidance for avoiding corporate monitoring and coordinating the cash-out phase after encryption. That playbook short-circuits perimeter defenses and compresses dwell time because the attacker starts with context and sometimes with privileges. It also muddies attribution when outreach happens off corporate platforms. For organizations, it's a reminder that not all threats arrive through a phishing link or a vulnerable gateway. Sometimes they knock on a phone. Recommendation: strengthen insider threat reporting channels and watch for credentials used from unusual devices or geographies. Dutch authorities arrested 2 teenagers accused of gathering reconnaissance for pro-Russian hackers, allegedly recruited on chat apps with small crypto payments and promises of notoriety. Tasks were low-skill but useful: scans of school-adjacent networks, scraping staff directories, and screenshots of internal portals. None of that is Hollywood hacking, but stitched together it fuels targeted spear phishing and credential stuffing. The case shows how espionage can be distributed to miners to add deniability and reduce risk for handlers. Payment trails and device logs reportedly tied aliases back to earlier influence operations. It's a teachable pattern for both schools and companies. Recommendation: expand digital safety education to include recruitment red flags and fast-track takedowns of suspected handler accounts. The Dark Cloud Info Stealer is back with a version 4.2 that adds browser extension hooks, lightweight persistence, and modular exfiltration. It goes after password vaults, crypto wallets, and messaging tokens first, then moves to mail and FTP clients, prioritizing whatever gives quick account takeover. Distribution leans on bundled productivity installers and malvertising that points to cloned vendor sites, with command and control rotating behind bulletproof hosts. Once it lands, Dark Cloud flags single sign-on cookies and tries to sync to new devices silently, making reuse faster for criminals. Fresh logs hit mid-tier marketplaces quickly via Stealer Log API feeds. Recommendation: block unknown extensions, reset tokens on suspect hosts, and monitor for impossible travel logins tied to newly enrolled devices. The UK and US are both warning organizations to get rid of end-of-life Cisco ASA firewalls because they're being actively targeted and can't be fully secured. These boxes often still sit at the edge with old VPN portals and management interfaces exposed, and intrusions tend to start there before rolling into credential theft and token replay. The risk is worse where AnyConnect was left with split tunneling, weak device checks, or stale local accounts that never got cleaned up. It's not just a patch gap, it's a dead end for fixes, which effectively turns every new exploit into a permanent one. If those devices also hold old certificates, attackers can leverage trust long after replacement. Recommendation: decommission quickly and revoke every credential and certificate the ASA ever trusted. A UK jury convicted the so-called Bitcoin Queen in a case tied to the world's largest crypto seizure, about £5.5 billion. Investigators spent years combining chain analysis with off-chain data exchange KYC, device forensics, and IP logs to trace flows through mixers and peel chains. The prosecution argued that laundering patterns, spending clusters, and correlated records told a consistent story even when wallets shifted and hops stacked up. Courts had to manage the complexity of safeguarding keys and evidence while keeping the trial on track, which is hard at this scale. For defenders, the lesson is that traditional fraud now pivots through crypto rails but still leaves usable fingerprints. Recommendation: apply exchange-grade screening to any corporate crypto activity and log ownership proofs. WestJet is notifying U.S. residents about a June breach that touched back-office systems for reservations and HR, which raises the stakes beyond Canadian regulators. Airlines have data that make excellent lures: loyalty numbers, travel histories, and itinerary emails that match real trips. Attackers time follow-on phishing to flight changes or refund windows, and victims click because the details feel legitimate. Even when financial data isn't exposed, identity elements and contact details power account takeovers and social engineering. WestJet says the intrusion was contained and third-party responders are on it, with support offers rolling out to affected people. Recommendation: reset loyalty passwords, turn on MFA, and treat any flight change or refund message as hostile unless you confirm in-app. The U.S. push for an IoT security label has lost momentum, while attacks on consumer and small business devices keep rising. Commodity botnets and exploit kits now hit new router and camera bugs almost as soon as they're published, and cheap hardware stacks reuse the same components, so one exploit spans many brands. Enterprises inherit the problem when unmanaged gadgets join corporate networks or when facilities teams deploy smart systems without IT oversight. Without baseline requirements, buyers are stuck doing their own vetting, and segmentation becomes the safety net. It's the classic weakest link issue, just multiplied by thousands of endpoints that rarely get updates. Recommendation: isolate IoT on dedicated VLANs, require auto-update support pre-purchase, and block outbound management panels. Threat actors are riding the AI wave with an evil AI theme. Fake productivity tools packaged as installers that drop info stealers and loaders. The sites look polished, complete with cloned vendor branding and influencer-style videos, and sponsored search pushes them to the top. The payloads go straight for browser cookies, crypto wallets, and messaging tokens, then quietly add persistence and enroll the device to the attacker's account. Branding and names change weekly: Chat, Writer, Image Pro, but infrastructure overlaps give them away. Reused certificates, familiar CDN paths, and similar command and control. Teams testing shiny tools on workstations with single sign-on sessions open are the soft targets. Recommendation: allow only vetted AI apps from managed stores and block unsigned user space installers. Moldova reported hostile activity against its Central Election Commission during a pro-EU vote, and officials framed it as part of a broader hybrid playbook. Public-facing services saw surges in traffic and probing of back-end systems that support voter information and results publishing, while fringe channels amplified narratives meant to shake confidence in the tally. The pattern target selection, timing, and messaging echoes prior Russian-aligned activity in the region. Core vote capture processes stayed intact, but ancillary portals had intermittent outages and a few defacements that seeded confusion. It's the classic disrupt and doubt approach, not a clean knockout. Recommendation: stage static results mirrors and geo-throttle non-local traffic on election infrastructure. A new industry survey says artificial intelligence has moved from pilots to everyday essentials inside security operations centers, especially for alert triage, correlation, and detection engineering. Teams report lower mean time to respond and less analyst fatigue as models summarize cases and suggest hypotheses inside the same workflow, reducing the swivel chair effect across consoles. The blockers are familiar: model transparency, data residency, evaluation quality, and the need for guardrails that bind models to approved playbooks. Budgets are shifting from experimental licenses to embedded platform features, which signals durable adoption. This isn't hype, it's operators voting with process and spend. Recommendation: formalize AI use cases with measurable KPIs and require audit logs for every model-assisted step. Another study tested whether AI can write reliable vulnerability checks, and the results were mixed. Models produced plausible code and test scaffolding for real CVEs, but they missed edge cases, version quirks, and safe-by-default behavior that you'd expect from production detections. False positives spiked when prompts lacked exact build details, and some outputs embedded insecure patterns that wouldn't pass code review. Red team prompts even nudged models toward noisy or broken checks, which can mask real exploitation. The takeaway is simple: great drafts, unreliable final product without human gates. Recommendation: treat AI-generated detections as drafts. Lint them, unit test against known good and known bad, and mandate peer review. Researchers detailed design flaws in tile trackers that let abusers stalk targets while dodging anti-stalking alerts. By chaining account-linking quirks with timing gaps in the unknown tracker logic, an attacker can persistently follow someone and still harvest location pings from passerby phones in the tile network. Manual scans and notification toggles didn't reliably catch the device in certain scenarios, and resets didn't always help. The risk isn't abstract. These are inexpensive, widely deployed, and often gifted. Tile says it's investigating and evaluating mitigations, but the exposure today is practical. Recommendation: prefer trackers with strong cross-platform unwanted tracking alerts and routinely scan for unknown Bluetooth beacons. OpenAI explained that conversations involving potentially dangerous intent get routed automatically to specialized safety models that filter content, add friction, or stop output altogether. The system looks for cues: weaponization, self-harm, targeted harassment, and switches the serving stack while preserving auditability for governance. For regulated customers, that means observability shifts and outcomes may change under sensitive conditions even if prompts look similar. It also clarifies that policy enforcement lives inside inference, not just as a separate layer. If you're standardizing on models for enterprise use, this matters for compliance and incident review. Recommendation: update AI governance to reflect conditional model routing and verify logs capture both primary and safety model outputs. That's the Bare Metal Cyber Daily Brief. For more, visit baremetalcyber.com and listen daily at dailycyber.news. Thanks for listening. We're back tomorrow.